technology and recruitment. So in your institution, in your org's recruitment strategy, how interested are you in leveraging technology for personalized approaches tailored to diverse student demographics? And it's not a trick question. It looks like one, right? Because, who might answer not interested at the moment? But I think this is a very valid question to find out where you're at. Maybe not just you, but your organization overall. Are they very interested, actively exploring possibilities, somewhat interested, looking to enhance our current strategies, and not interested at the moment? Because maybe, like Suzanne said, like maybe we're just looking to survive, for example, but open to future considerations. And I believe that that's why, you're listening, to this webinar now. And so let's see, what do we have? Okay, so we have a good split between the first two answers. Very interested, we're actively exploring possibilities. Somewhat interested, we're looking to enhance our current state. And then again, that small slice, that maybe that's just not where they're at, but I hope that some of the strategies that we'll share today will get you into that middle to higher category. So to start off with our panelists, I do want to cover really just again, making it conversational, guys, because I know everybody has expertise to get to support the conversation. But I want to cover first, how can institutions strategically leverage technology to personalize recruitment strategy? So personalize, that's the word that sticks out for me. And then this is for to strategize for different student demographics. How many demographic, I guess, check marks do I have? I feel like I fill several. But Dana, if I can have you start off by answering this question. I know we've had several conversations over the last year or so, maybe even talking to as well for the whole group, your before and after, maybe what you've experienced in your lifetime, in the higher education space.
Sure, thank you. Anytime we leverage our technology, we get more and more of the story, right? And I say that, data tells a story. And, we just recently partnered with Lead Squared. Honestly, we have not had a CRM system before. And so, it has drastically changed the way that we're able to, diversify our recruitment, because it gives us more marketing information. We're able to do a better zip code analysis, heat maps, what's happening with our marketing. The other, understand where our strengths are, where the weaknesses are, what our opportunities are. We can identify the trends, we can look at the gaps, so we have better decision making. The thing that I like the most about, leveraging our technology currently is we have more time to actually coach. We used to spend a lot of time managing database and, producing projects for our admissions coordinators to make sure that they are reaching out to our prospective students. But, now we have a little bit more opportunity to actually coach on the floor with them and give them, better support so that they're supporting our students even better. And I think that's, huge. And also like the cost efficiency pieces of it too. But it's been life-changing, and the system runs the admissions coordinator, not the admissions coordinator running the system. And that's been very beneficial too, especially to a lot of our newer folks who are coming into admissions. You have people who are experienced, they know how to attack a database, they know what to look for. I'm going to be calling this inquiry source or that inquiry source, whereas you have newer people who join us every day, and it's their first walk in admissions, and they actually have a cadence. They have, the technology that allows them to reach out to more students. The targeted messaging is huge as well, especially in a diverse, area like South Florida. It's also helped, allowed us to make better hiring decisions because we don't have cookie cutter students, so therefore we don't need those cookie cutter admissions.
That's a great point. What stood out to me is more time to coach. And, so we're talking about students and recruitment, but also the students talk to your admissions, counselors, and hanging on to those folks because you've equipped them with the right tools, the best technology, and so on. But that just helps them get better. You're investing in them. When I heard you say more time to coach, I heard you're investing in your team, which then has that domino effect into your students and then overall to the organization. Najib, can I have you have a stab at it, and being able to give your input on the question as well?
Sure, absolutely. So, just like Dr. Kahush, our CEO, I believe strongly in technology and enhancing and fine-tuning technology. So one of the important parts of, for example, a CRM is the customizability. It's the freedom to customize based on your processes, based on your policies, based on your strategies to allow the workflow to be much more fluid. Um, it's a lot of people look into, okay, what as an important actually, what's going out from the CRM, but also it's equally important, what's going into the CRM. And by having that freedom to customize it, it personalizes a little bit more. You can adjust it to the individual. It's not, it's like Dana was just saying, cookie cutter approach. If you have running a certain marketing strategy, you can focus your CRM based on that marketing strategy. So I mean, there's definitely more pros and cons to implementing technology in the admissions world, in the recruitment world, and one of the things was the lifespan of a lead, for example, a potential student. Just the to recruit somebody on the spot, to attract somebody to actually react to an ad and fill out a lead form, submit it to the college. And most of our leads don't make it's not like 20 years ago, but they're more informed customers. So they like to take time and take several steps before they make a decision. And so, you have to find ways to keep them engaged over time. And, that's one of the very important aspects for me and for our organization, to make sure that we keep the fire burning
Yeah.
with leads.
That's a great point. I'm glad I left Suzanne for that, to answer the question too, because when you said react to an ad, today's customers are more informed. It's true. They have more resources to be able to pull up information. So Suzanne, how can institutions strategically leverage technology to personalize recruitment strategies and for these diverse groups of folks that they're talking to? So please, if I can have you give some insight on that.
I would say three things pop into my mind. The first one has to do with personalized email. The second has to do with attribution. And the third one has to do with pairing technology and human insight. So the first one around email journeys is, I've worked with many schools with my team on I loved what Dana was saying around, we don't have custom cookie cutter students, so we don't need cookie cutter marketing. Totally agree. So taking those cookie cutter email journeys that many schools have, that sort of shout into the wilderness, that just lists the benefits, in sort of the order that the admissions team thinks they matter to the prospect, without really personalizing it based on what that student is interested in. I think that needs to be the way of the past, and the way of the future needs to be leveraging technology to build everything around insights that we have about those students. And we have built campaigns like that out in various CRMs, and it's always been really fun to really think about the personas, about the actions that they're taking. How can we make sure that technology is partnered with us? The second piece that I was going to bring up is attribution, because Najab talked about ads. We work with a lot of paid media clients on putting ads in market. And I'm super passionate again about the cookie cutter thing, because in higher ed, a lot of ads look exactly the same. You almost can't distinguish them from the competition. But that's kind of unrelated to technology. You really do need to figure out, who are you talking to and how can you be different? But then when it comes to technology, really being able to understand which ad, which platform is driving what type of a lead, and how can we kind of prove that various tactics are working the way that they're supposed to. So we've worked with One particular solution that actually enables us to have first touch attribution, that's AI-based and technology-based on the campaigns that we run. And that's empowered us to say, look, we know that the early deposits that we're going to see from a paid media campaign are typically search marketing deposits because those prospects are lower in the funnel and they're actively looking and showing an intent. Then we have campaigns that are more awareness focused. We probably won't see a lot of conversions for those in the short term, but let's keep watching how they engage throughout the funnel, and then we can make a more educated decision about whether those awareness tactics are worth it. Depending on what sort of your KPI framework is, they might be, and you might find that they take too long. And so really using technology to inform your how you assess KPIs. And then my third point was around pairing technology with human insight, because at the same time, right, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to hit the exact right message 100% of the time. And you're never going to know 100% of the picture in terms of how your campaigns are performing. I mean, think about it. Somebody might be Googling, Harvard University ad keyword, and then they see it, and then they go and talk to their mother later, and then the mother types in the direct link, and then she takes an action. You will never be able to attribute everything perfectly. And I think that as marketers, we have to do the education with our stakeholders that the technology exists and it's amazing, but also that, we have to manage the expectations around never being able to show the full picture either. And I think that's really important as well.
That's a great point. You said, so with attribution, which ad, which platform, and it reminded me of how last night, I got the text and the email, but I think I ended up buying through the text link, so I'm sure they know, but what time did they send it? I'm like, I observed myself as a consumer, because it's the same strategies that corporations are taking, right? With the education. I mean, they have it. The corporations won't survive unless they have that data, that insight, that human insight, the customized, personalized emails. So it all comes back full circle. We're a consumer. Your students are a consumer at the end of the day. Thank you so much for that. I love that. You said we have to pair that human insight. I'm taking notes on that as well. So, folks, I'm gonna segue into our poll question number 2. Again, we want to get a pulse for where our audience members, again, whether live or on the recording, where they're at, and what are they thinking about? Where are they exactly? So, with regards to the admissions process optimization, are you currently using any automated systems for streamlining your admissions process? So yes, no, exploring options. Would love to get a pulse on where you are with your organization. And again, sometimes, someone's on listening now, but maybe their colleague, could be a different answer. It's good to find out and take these questions back to your team as well. So we'll give it a couple more seconds and get answers on that. Right. Drum roll. So it looks like 88%, that's great, are using automated systems for streamlining the admissions process. So this is important. So most folks are using some sort of system, so whether that's those automated texts, automated emails, maybe even configuring your technology to make sure that the admissions person makes that phone call within a few seconds, a few minutes, or maybe the follow-up phone call the next day. And I'll let the audience, my panelist here, Dana, Najib, Suzanne, take a shot at the question. I want to cover next, how have automated systems positively impacted the efficiency and accuracy of the admissions process in your experience or your observations? And again, this could be with your new technology or just even in the previous systems in the past.
Well, let me start this one. So Dana actually pointed that out earlier, and I think she said it very well when she said that the admissions reps don't run the system. The systems actually run the admissions activities. I think that's very important because as a human being, you tend to forget. It's just very human. You tend to forget or overlook or any type of error that technology doesn't have time for, right? So the technology is programmed to be 100% accurate, and it's got to do a certain task at a certain time, and it's going to be done no matter what. So that will push the admissions representative to follow that schedule. Sometimes everybody needs a little nudge, whether it's the admissions rep or whether it's the potential student. And so the automation works on both ends, on the consumer end and on the user end. So for the admissions team, they'll be prompted, this is your next task. This is when you have to do it. This is what you need to get done. And there's just really no way around it. You have to complete those tasks. You have to get in there and click on it. It's done, and it goes to your next one until you become full cycle with that potential student. On the potential student side, on the other hand, we're talking about, I think everybody is used to that term, speed to lead, right? So, back in the days, it was like, people sitting right there by the phone and just going like, who gets to that lead first, and just boom, pick up the phone and start dialing that lead. And sometimes, you miss it and you lose it to somebody else. So with an automated system, like, that automatic, that auto text or email or both, what will happen is that lead within a few seconds is reached. They have immediate contact. You can determine what the message is going to be, make it exciting and colorful. So you get some get positive responses. But that initial contact, and you hear reps kind of say, "Oh my God, this person just said, I can't believe, you reached me so quickly. I just clicked send and you already contacted." So that's always an exciting experience for the rep and for the potential student. So looking at the automation of that I think that is an integral detail, a very important detail, a small one, but very important detail, that we reach our potential students right away. And if we don't receive an answer, that they're receiving follow-ups. And again, as an admissions rep, you'll sit there and 3 out of 5 times you follow up perfectly on time, exactly how you do it, and you miss the 2 times that are essential to reach that person, because at that time they were probably expecting some sort of communication. So with an automated system, you will not have that issue, because it will send it out whether you like it or not, unless you tell the system not to, but it will send it out. The end consumer will receive the message, right? So automation is I think it's inevitable in today's society. We need it, and it eliminates the potential for error or missed opportunities.
Great point. You talked about that small window from when a student either submits an application, inquires, and we all have small windows, right? Like, what is it, my 5-minute coffee break? And if hopefully they can pick up, if I'm calling for an insurance, whatever it is, and I have this window. If you catch me, then we can do business. But if you don't, what is that hit or miss? You spoke to something else, Najib, earlier. You said like the life of the lead or that student. So let's say if something happened and I'm not ready for another year, but you still want to have that nurturing sequence that makes it so that you don't forget about, Southeastern College, California Career Institute, so yeah, I love everything you said. I'm again love that I can take notes on here as well. Dana and Suzanne, love your input. Automation, I'm sure, either you're using it now or you've used it in the past. Would love some, your insights on that.
Absolutely. I think that Najib was right on point, and that is that inquiry maturation is just so important. You do have that life cycle of an inquiry. And whether they're, excited to start today or tomorrow or 9 months from now, there has to be communication to those folks. So that's one part of it, is making sure that you have those automated tasks that go out, and that, that your folks are working with those, with those students, having the information to them. I think that I'm a good example of this. I rolled up my sleeves about a year and a half ago. I rolled up my sleeves and I was helping out my admissions team. This was when I was in a campus president's role. It was during the holidays. We were kind of short staffed, and I was like, let me get on the phones. And I was just so bummed because, I always thought I was pretty decent at it, right? So I couldn't get a hold of anybody. I'm leaving messages like, I'm like stellar before, but not now. So I'm like, what am I missing? And so I'm like venting to one of my seniors, and she's like, you're not sending the text message. And I'm like, I didn't have text messaging when I started in admission, so once I started doing that, it was just one after the other. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm connecting. And I'm not saying that one form of communication is more important than the other, but just like, a generational evolution, admissions has evolved with technology too, and so I think that that's just super important. I don't focus on how many text messages are sent out or how many phone calls are made. I focus on what kind of conversation did you have and how many of those conversations took place today. Because the student needs a sense of belonging, and that's more or less what, I look to, but it is about that contact. The other part of that too is, not just for the admissions piece of like the contact, but we also have, some different automated features that help us with paperwork and, the application process. And that right there helps us with compliance and, less room for error. And also too, like enhancement of communication with your other departments. We have teams now, where we chat on there all day long. We have different teams that are set up for functional pieces throughout the campus, which helps us to support that student and make sure they have a good experience when they visit our campus. So, there's just so many different ways of technology, and the biggest thing that we can do in our admissions platform is embracing it. I'm willing to try anything, right? So, let's embrace it and share that information so that we have better ways of communicating with our students.
Nice. Nice. I love that you said support our student. That also stuck out. And then it sounds like you and your team are on the same page, through Teams messaging groups, and just so that everybody knows where that student is, and it feels like the student feels like, hey, they're paying attention to what I'm saying, and they're hearing me, right? So anyway, I heard all of that as you were talking about evolving, just like the student has evolved. So we should, as an institution, as an organization, evolve as well. And Suzanne, I know, with your clients, I want to hear more about, what kind of situations you run into, but also how do you plug in, your services and just your background and knowledge to be able to help these institutions, these organizations have automated systems impact them positively.
Yeah, I mean, we work with clients that have all kinds of maturity levels when it comes to technology, right? Starting from clients who really are still relying on these really cookie cutter email journeys for lead nurture, and that's all they do. And I'm talking about graduate or professional programs, right? Not necessarily undergrad. To clients who are working, who have personalized, really dynamic nurture email streams, who have text message, phone calls, and maybe even I would throw in postcards, which many of them also have in the mix. And so that's really fun when you can come in and you can kind of assess and audit what's in place and then how can we make it better and more effective. We really think through, when we have the technology in place too, how can we bring a content first approach to this, is what we call it, because a lot of the time the follow-ups that schools are sending are very transactional. It's like, don't forget, the application deadline is this, make your deposit, attend this event, RSVP here, whatever the ask is. We think that not in order to distract people, but to offer them some value and engagement, there needs to be content that gets sent with that. And the more vulnerable, raw, and authentic the story, it doesn't have to be super long, but you can tell stories about how this experience transformed a student's life, how a faculty member was instrumental in their growth, what support services they received on campus or in their experience. That really does engage people throughout, because otherwise they'll just start tuning it out, right? If you're just getting the same message over and over again versus different messages over time, that's also really important. And I do think technology plays a role in that, because technology allows us to understand what message is the most effective at what point in the journey.
Mm. I love that content first approach on offering value. You're right. When it's the same message, sometimes we can tune it out. So having something different, that even like the color of the email could be different or something. I mean, I'm
Right.
exaggerating
Actually,
it, but
we use different ad creative for retargeting and search, for example, because we know people are going to see it and tune it out if it looks too similar.
oh, interesting. Yeah, now you're getting me to think as a consumer too. I'm like, oh my gosh, what was the right bait for me in this, in this purchase, or but it is. I'm sure there's a science to all of that, and and I'll just ask you on our third topic about balancing technology integration. What strategies do you recommend for seamlessly integrating technology with traditional methods, which you already touched on? You even mentioned like postcards, for example, to enhance the overall educational journey for students.
Right. But I think one risk that we're running is that we're going to overwhelm people, especially if I come in as a consultant or with my firm and I'm talking to teams that have done it a certain way for years, perhaps even decades. And the minute we start overwhelming them, we're not going to get the same chance to make an impact. So I think that's really important to understand, and also first take the time to understand what does the data look like on their end already? What solutions do they have in place? How could they be better integrated? Mapping out the transformation that we think we can bring to them over time, but starting also with some quick win proof of concepts, right? Like that's where the science and the art have to go together. And the art is like that human emotion management that has to occur when you're collaborating across really complex problems. So if you have, a client that potentially is using email journeys and they're not personalized, dynamic, they're not deployed at strategic times, can you educate them with a case study about how that was really able to move the needle for a school, B, pick maybe one program to do this for, C, create the proof of concept and then move on, right? That I think is really important to keep in mind, the emotions that people feel when technology is flashy and innovative. That doesn't always, not everybody loves that feeling. Some people do, but not everybody does.
When you said flashy, I thought of like Las Vegas casinos. That's me, but not everybody is that, right? And they got me to think of Dana. What did you say earlier? You said I'll try anything, but and that's me too. Like, what's going to work, right? But you also did mention like data. I wrote it down. Data tells a story, so I did write down. So I'll segue to you, Dana. What same question, just being able to balance technology integration and over your history and your experience, what strategies do you recommend to our audience? I know we've got some more folks joining us now to enhance that overall student journey.
I'll tell you, I can't say it enough, and that is survey your students. And I'm not just talking about what their experience is in the classroom, but do a marketing survey. Ask them what radio stations that they listen to, ask them how they prefer to be contacted. What kind of cell phone do they have? What's their cell phone provider? We do this annually. We started with about 20 questions, and we started this in 2017. But the amount of information, and we have 5 campuses, so we have 2 in Florida, 2 in South Carolina, and 1 in North Carolina, and all of those markets are different. So the information that we get from those particular surveys it helps us to make all of our decisions really when it comes to technology and marketing. We are actually able to see how many of our students have the capability of technology at home, how many of them actually use the resources at the campus, and are we reaching those consumers? And it's just a lot of really good information for us. But that right there would be my one big takeaway. And we have a great partner with MDT Marketing, and they were the brains behind that operation. So we partner with them. I think that, like I said, we started with like 20 questions, and now we have 30 questions on the survey X amount of years later. So
nice. That's great. I'm sure I've heard you say that before, but this is such a great point to get a pulse, as they say, keep your pulse, on what's going on, and that survey will tell you not only how are your students, like again, are they on an what is it, an iPhone or an Android? And we laugh in my family because most of us are on iPhones, and the couple of family members that are not, we like, how are we going to get them in? But it doesn't matter, right? But you do want to find out, like, do they even have internet at home? I've done campus tours at schools like Southeastern, even at Southeastern, where you'll have like a setup for that student that maybe doesn't have internet at home. They can come and fill out the application on site, you know. So just those things are important to find out, and how to address that with your students. Najib, I'll let you finish off that question, but yeah, any strategies that you recommend for seamlessly integrating that technology to overall enhance that student journey? And I think you're on mute. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, there you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
So, I always laugh at others, right? And now it happened to me.
Always happens like that.
There you go. But COVID-19, I think, taught everybody a valuable lesson, and really prompted people and organizations to look into alternative methods of reaching and servicing the client. So looking into this and also taking a very valuable lesson I have received from one of my mentors many years ago, who told me, Najib, if you can't manage, if you cannot measure it, you can't manage it, and he's absolutely right. So it's data that you need, and the analytics of the data, so you can then formulate a strategy to execute. So looking back at those days, and that was back when you had lead cards. We didn't have fancy computers back then. So it was very important. So we were counting, you know, how many cards we had. Now it's all automated. You get into the system, it shows you how many leads. The whole data analysis, it's you know, it's an amazing tells an amazing story. You know, how many people were interested in looking at your college or your institution. How many of those were actually reached, and why were they not reached, right? And so there's a story behind that portion, you know, about the ones that showed interest, but, you know, refused to answer the phone, for example, or refused to respond. You know, why are they not, you know, you can ask those questions now. Go into setting the appointments, you know, I say, okay, out of those people that were really interested and we will reach them, how many set the appointments? You know, and the ones that didn't, why didn't they set the appointments, right? Let's find out. And then you go back into the automation and send the appropriate, and then go back to Suzanne and content, right? Now you can actually, with that data, create the content, the right content to reach the individual, not, you know, just a generic message going out that may or may not hit somebody's interest or reach somebody's interest. But, you know, all of this stuff you can really accomplish, you know, with gathering the data and having that technology behind you to not only collect the data to allow you to do the analysis, but also to overcome the challenges. So you can actually target them back and go back and say, look, you know, I'm sorry I missed you on this point possibly, but let's get back together and see, you know, where I missed you, why you didn't show up for the appointment. You know, maybe it's not the right time for you, and if it's not the right time for you, you know, what do you think is the right time for you?
Right.
And they'll give you that information. I'm going to tell you, no, call me back in 2 months, you know, and then you can build your campaign on sending them, you know, bi-weekly or monthly messages out and say, hey, you know, keep that, what do they call it? Keep that lead hot, right? So,
Right.
and you know, that's my 2 cents for this.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. How do you keep it hot? Well, you keep it nurtured, right, with that sequence, like you said, 2 months from now, and then you work backwards, you know,
Yep.
and even maybe getting granular and asking that student, like, or getting that permission, like, is it okay if I reach out to you maybe every 2 weeks via email, via text, and see how you're doing? Yes, no, or, you know, and that's granular, right? That's really finding out what that student needs at that moment, and then you following through with that, and then again leveraging the technology to help you with that. So I think that these are all amazing answers. I know our audience is loving it. I actually recognize somebody on here on the one of our participants, Shonda. Hi, Shonda. You'll love that I gave you a shout out. So I'm going to go with poll question number 3 and then our final question, because I do want to leave a few minutes for some questions if anybody has any questions. And then I do want Suzanne to talk a little bit more about her book before we're done, okay? And Viv marketing as well, higher education. So strategies of effective decision making. So last year, okay, this is funny. Last year, Care Hope College managed to increase student engagement by 93%. Would you like to know how? This one might be a trick question, guys, but this is where I come in. I'll let everybody answer it. And then again, we'll move into our fourth and final question. I love how everybody, I have about 2 pages back and forth of notes. Just being able to say data tells a story. I love that. There's a story behind it, I think, Najib, to everything. Yeah, so that's great. Everybody wants to find out. We'll check in with you guys after the webinar here. And so our final question is, and again, I want just whoever feels like they have something to share, our panelists, Suzanne, Dana, Najib. So how does strategic decision-making in higher education contribute to a positive student experience, especially in the context of technology adoption? So I'm talking about from the moment, that student inquires, is interested, has, whether they saw an ad, like, you know what, I've been talking to my mom and maybe I should go finish my bachelor's, or maybe I should go into this profession, even to post-enrollment, post-graduation. I'm talking about alumni. So from that moment and everything in between, whatever pops into your mind, how can that contribute to that positive student experience? I have a customer that has a lot of Google reviews, 5-star reviews. I love that. Because I look for restaurants on Google, but who would have thought, just getting the number of 5-star reviews up, that's a part of the journey too. If they're willing to go give you a positive 5-star review, that's a big deal, because that takes time out of their schedule, right? Just like the surveys do. But please, anybody on our panel, how does that decision making in higher education contribute to that positive student experience?
When I hear strategic decision making, I think about market research and how there are way too few institutions that do market research well. So I totally echo what Dana was saying about surveying students who didn't convert, doing focus groups, not through Viv, but at an institution where I'm currently serving as fractional CMO. I've been there's a really fun initiative of building an internal market research incubator. I understand that many schools hire external vendors, which is a great solution, but this school in particular wants to build that discipline in-house. And it's really fun because we're using faculty on the business school side, some grad students, people on the administration, and then also external partners who are doing the different things like surveys, focus groups, desk research, competitor research, labor demand analysis, and all of that. And the strategic decision-making that's going to come out of that is going to ensure that the brand is much more aligned with the market. And I think that's a tension that we're seeing all over the place. And then the other thing that I would say about strategic decision-making is, I guess, strategy is only half the battle. The implementation is really where the rubber meets the road. And I constantly, one of my soapbox things to talk about is how strategic plans are only as good as the implementation, or strategic plans are only differentiated if they actually implement well. And so really, I think making sure that instead of sitting in our ivory tower and just coming up with these ideas, we are good at finding the people who are going to do it, overseeing them, giving them the tools that they need to succeed is really, really important as well.
Yeah, that ivory tower, right? And then also like finding out, like, what is it? I never have liked this word, like in sales, like postmortem, like what, like once it's done, what did we do well? Somebody already mentioned that, like Dana, like what opportunities do we have? You said strength and weaknesses, and just continuously analyzing ourselves, analyzing the project, the team, and where we could all give our inputs for a better result, even better result next time. So those are all great points. Dana, Najib, any inputs on your end?
Yeah, I mean, just to
I
kind of echo. Oh,
Go ahead.
Just
Go
kind
ahead,
of echo
Dana.
off of Suzanne, I just think that it's really important that we, when we are being strategic, that we are aligning the technology with our institutional goals, and what are those key priorities? What are the learning outcomes? What are the marketing efforts? And, when we do that, we have an opportunity to kind of cater to everyone on that student experience. I think that's really important. And, the other part of that too is when I said earlier, I'll try anything once. I think you have to have your eyes, your ears, and your mind open. If it's not working, sometimes you just have to tweak it. But I think that it really is important to align those with the goals and to make sure that we're, having the right technology there for the students to be successful. As far as like admissions goes, we're always brainstorming on different initiatives and, the marketing survey helps out tremendously with that, just because, we actually survey our current students, but I like Suzanne's, suggestion of pulling some of those who haven't joined, right? But the current students, we actually asked them why they joined us, what was the reason, how they found out about us, because that helps us to maximize on those opportunities. But I try to be a student of my profession and just continuously learn what is out there to make our jobs easier. I'm a big believer in working smarter. We all work hard. We all know that admissions and marketing is a very hard job, and so is higher education. So I'm all about finding smarter ways to do it as well.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, I want to work smarter. You tell me about it. So, Najib, I know you had something to add on there as well.
Yeah, listening to both Suzanne and Dana with very insightful messages. One of, by the way, I used to sit in the ivory tower, Suzanne.
It's nice in the ivory tower. No doubt about it.
So looking at things, you don't have the answers to everything, right? And many companies that I have been either involvement or exposed to have a very strict top-down management approach. And in my experience, it limits the institution or the company or the organization from actually going from, there's a great book, by the way, from good to great. They'll stay at that good stage and never be great, right? So where you will really, I think, where you get your best ideas and your best strategies is with the opposite approach, get the bottom up management, and go to your employees and literally really with much interest, listen to what they have to tell you about their challenges, what's going well, what's not going well. Bounce your ideas off them and see if they are actionable strategies, right? Because from the top, it all looks great, right? I say we can just implement this, and gosh darn, if they don't execute right, it's their fault, not mine, because my idea is flawless. So it's not. So if you take your idea and take it down to the rep levels, right? And say, hey, look, guys, I've got this idea. What do you think about this? Is this something that you guys can use and utilize in your day-to-day operations? You'll get a much better response and probably a much better return on your strategies. So this is the approach that I have taken on starting about 10 years ago, and I have not deviated from it. And it's been part of my, not just my personal success, but also the success of the organizations and all the employees that were involved. So, strategically thinking, you're talking about strategic management. It's important who you involve in your decision making. And I think the ones that actually have to execute the plans are the most important ones to consult. And that's it for me.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you said a return on your strategies, which is the goal, right? We talked about strategy and technology. But getting a return on that is going to be important. And I'll leave the last just few minutes. We have about 4 minutes before we're done. I want to make sure that we get Suzanne to talk about her new book, Pass Fail, The Urgent Need for Strategic Leadership in Higher Education. I think just that title alone gets me thinking. But before we go, guys, please connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us on the socials. I think just again, being able to get connected to folks like the ones on our panel today can again keep us evolved, in education, in our strategies. So, Suzanne, I'll leave you the last few minutes just to please tell us more about your book, and let me
Thank
know
you.
if it's
Yeah,
okay
just real
to
quick.
post a link about that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. No, the book is coming out in the summer. It's based on more than a dozen interviews with VPs and presidents at all kinds of different institutions, as well as quantitative research. And it really looks at 4 key strategic areas. So strategic planning, brand, enrollment, and culture. There's also under the brand umbrella a topic or a chapter on advancement too. And if you think about it, brand, advancement, and enrollment are the 3 key engines behind institutional growth. And I wrote the book because I care deeply about this field. I believe that at its best, higher education is deeply transformative and opens up new paths for people in their lives. I think it's, if not the biggest, one of the biggest engines of social mobility. And I think that strategic leadership is what's going to be necessary to protect this public good. And the book really gives actionable insights to people who are either in VP or president roles, or also people who aspire to those roles, for how they can lead better in their day-to-day.
Wow, like engine of strategic mobility. Again, I love once I hear something I'm
Social,
like, I
yeah.
want to hear more. I can't wait to read it. And again, just to everybody, thank you so much, Dana, Najib, Suzanne. Uh, there's so much that was shared here that I typically what I'll do is I'll listen to it again, because again, these nuggets, right, the can change the trajectory of the organization or the person's career in education, in higher education, or just anywhere. I believe that we can use a lot of these insights to further progress. Who said evolve? I mean, I got so many notes on here, so thank you so much for your time. I don't see any questions on the attendees here, but I would say please follow up with us again via LinkedIn, via the socials for Southeastern College, California Career Institute, Viv Higher Education. And thank you so much for such a lovely time, everybody. We appreciate you. Look forward to a successful 2024. Let's stay connected, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you very
team.
much.
Appreciate it. See ya. Bye.
Bye.